I'm Rhys Bevan. I'm a digital artist who works in the gaming industry, specifically within mobile games. That means I do everything from making 3D models, animation, UI assets, implementing things in the game engine. Because of the size of the company, a lot of what I do is pretty broad. It wasn't a long-term thing to necessarily be in games. I think that came about just organically. It started with being interested in kind of film and narrative, and then getting interested in 3D software, and that naturally led to games after school. The opportunity to work in mobile games opened up to me after I'd been contracting with the Art Institute downtown for a couple of years. The art director of the company was looking for an additional artist, and at that point they were still pretty small, like 12 people. I had an interview and I got hired. I started working at a small startup called Synapse Games. And it wasn't necessarily a startup when I joined. They had already been making games for like 6 years, but I sort of came in at the end of the first act. But when I got there, it was still pretty indie. I think the office was an apartment, but that was awesome. That was like a big, kind of appeal to me. I think it was like a small group of people who were super passionate about what they were doing. I joined the company at that point when they were working on their hit game, Tyrant Unleashed, and sort of grew with them as they grew past that game and to work on bigger projects. So we go from project to project, and what I do on that project kind of changes, which is different than a lot of other companies where you're hired as like a specialist. So like when I was first hired, it was a lot of 2D images, illustration that was done in 3D. And then we started working on the Turtles game. My duties kind of evolved at that point to be more character art. A lot of it is visual problem solving, which sounds really abstract and out there, right? But whatever tool you're using, whether you're designing a character or whether you're modeling a character, like a lot of for Turtles, was getting a concept and making the model of that. And you'd think it's straightforward, but the process of turning a 2D image into a 3D model has a lot more things that you wouldn't think are complicated. So if in the concept, a character's brow comes out this way, you have to know how to translate that into three-dimensional space and it still feel like a cohesive model. Whatever you're doing, whether it's 3D modeling or UI, UX, figuring out where a button should be, what the flow of a layout should be. I think on a very general level, you're trying to solve a problem. Burnout is a real thing. You start into the industry and it's like, this is awesome. I'm working on games. Why would I want to do anything else? And then a few years into it, you definitely feel that wall, like when you realize the reality of production. Making games, whatever kind of game, be it a huge AAA game or a mobile game like I work on, is very hard. And I think it's the reality of game development that is the most challenging part, which is it's a lot of very different disciplines and crafts that go into making this one thing. And they all have to sync up and make a cohesive product. I think it's the most intricate kind of production of any medium. So thankfully for me, whatever I'm doing, the end result isn't something I'm necessarily personally interested in, but the tools are interesting. Constantly staying in love with the tools is what really keeps me interested. As far as games go, as a kid, it was a lot of point and click adventure games. So all the LucasArts games like The Dig or Loom. I find like my experiences of things as a kid continue to inspire me because it was when I didn't have a frame of reference for what the thing was. So if I was playing a point and click adventure, I didn't know the patterns of what to do. I didn't know what was clickable and what wasn't. I couldn't anticipate what was going to happen because it was all new to me. So it enters into you in this really raw and powerful way. I think the same thing applies to movies where you can't, as you get older, you can sort of see where things are going. You start to see the patterns. I think it's memories of when things were new that continue to inspire me. So I think it's going back to that really keeps me going. If you're in this industry, you have to have some sort of love for the tools. You have to be curious. There's all this stuff online and you have to see it and actually follow up on how that thing was made and be curious to find out how that was made, what the tool that was used to make it. Not feeling the pressure to have everything figured out so early in your career. I think that's a really important thing. There's this weird expectation that a path should be set that early, whereas it can be a really messy, winding journey. And I think that's not only normal, that's good. And that you really can't predict what's going to happen. You can't predict what the value of something is you're going to have in the future. And as far as other advice, be respectful to everybody. Try to learn as much as you can. Don't burn any bridges. Keep an open mind and try to learn from whatever situation you're in. It's not always going to be what you like. It's not always going to be what you wanted, but there's usually some kind of angle you can get to learn from, to apply to wherever you go next.